Kurt, Royal Rumble, less than 24 hours away. It'll be over 24 hours. We'll know who the winner is. Did tonight's show give you any greater idea of who is going to win the Royal Rumble? They tried to introduce the idea of Kevin Owens beating Cody and CM Punk winning the Rumble in that main eventing WrestleMania. I like that they're doing that. I'm not sold on it. Your thoughts?
Honestly, no, not really. It didn't. My main sell for the Royal Rumble as far as who's going to win was on Monday on Raw with that ending segment with Cody and CM Punk. The CM Punk and Kevin Owens segment tonight was a nice little tease. I enjoyed it because I know they've had like their issues back in the day. But as far as go-home shows, as far as tonight went, had its moments, but overall it didn't make me any more excited for the Royal Rumble than I already was. Personally.
Yeah. It's a challenge with a 3-hour SmackDown format the day before the show. Mm-hmm. Everybody's in town, but you don't. They've already said what they're going to say. Like, I mean, in terms of like really hitting the big notes, we got video package on Cody and KO's history. A video on John Cena, which I think was important if he's not going to be on SmackDown. It would have been nice for Cena to appear on SmackDown. He appeared on Raw. I don't know, just like the night before. He's been so absent, but I guess they're trying to save his moments to really count at this point. But I give a tip of the hat to WWE, and this happened tonight and it's happened the last few weeks, which is we're going to entertain a lot of various ways things could go as if it was unscripted, as if it was real. We don't know. We're accounting for all possibilities, as opposed to just honing in on just like, it's going to be basically we're going to say anybody can win, but we're going to make it pretty obvious it's only one or two or three people. And I actually really like Kevin Owens like speaking up and taking offense to everyone talking past him last week. Like, you're talking as if Cody's going to be the champ at WrestleMania. Hello, what about me? I love that. I mean, that to me, you want wrestlers on television acting as natural as you would expect them to if everything happening around them were real. And that's what Kevin Owens finds a way to do all the time. So yeah, Kevin Owens has been on his game. What I love about this, Kurt, is every time they tease a main event that is almost for sure not going to happen, it makes that match more marketable for later. And I think they've done that to a number of matches this season.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, Punk and Owens is definitely a match I want to see sometime this year. Not to mention Roman and Drew, Sammy and Seth Rollins. It's endless from everything they've been teasing the last month. Even John Cena and Cody at some point. I don't think it's going to happen at WrestleMania anymore, but that's definitely one match I want to see before Cena officially retires. That's one thing I'll give WWE, at least for the men's Royal Rumble this year. They've done a masterful job at making it very unpredictable and making it seem like everybody who's in it has a chance, even though, like you said, there's probably only 2 or 3 people that will more than likely win it. But especially after what we saw at the end of Raw last Monday, I have my pick. And if anybody else other than that person wins, I think it will be a letdown, personally.
Well, let's not waste time. We got who's your pick to win the Rumble this year?
CM Punk.
Interesting. Yep. I don't think that's a bad pick at all. I mean, to say who really has a chance to win, who's in that realm? I think you have CM Punk, John Cena, Roman Reigns, McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and I think Drew comes in at number 5, but I think he is top 5. After that, I mean, they've thrown Sami Zayn out there with a storyline you could believe. Braun Breaker would be a total shock dark horse, but maybe WWE will do that some year, and we'll be like, whoa, this blows up every expectation we had. Don't think it's going to happen. And I mean it's not going to be LA Knights. Jey Uso, they gave some, he got to pitch to his fans on Monday that might happen. We know it's less than 1%. There's 30 people in this. He's not even odds or even 1/3 even odds to win. So yeah. So now that I kind of said that, like, why CM Punk more than Cena, Drew, Reigns, and Seth?
I'll be honest, I picked Cena to win when he came back at that first Raw on Netflix earlier in the month, but kind of really seeing the momentum Punk has right now, and not to mention the fact that he missed last year's WrestleMania because of the injury, but still having a great year despite that with the feud with Drew McIntyre and then the feud with Seth Rollins afterwards. I just feel like just like 2013 was his year to main event WrestleMania, this year is his year to main event WrestleMania. And I feel like it needs to happen now because considering, the stage he's in his career, among other things, I feel like if you don't pull the trigger on this now, you might never get another chance to do it again with the iron as hot as it is right now. So that's why I say he wins the Royal Rumble, and it is CM Punk and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, because I believe that is the biggest match that they can do at this point.
Walk me through a little bit the way that they would have Punk pick Cody to face, and obviously you're predicting Cody retains tomorrow against
Definitely.
KO. Yeah. I mean, that's implied and it's obvious, but let's just, we'll say it for the record. We're not looking past it. We're not looking past KO. We are saying Cody will beat KO. We're not ignoring that. So is there going to be any mystery to Punk? Because I mean, Punk had dropped Gunther's name a couple months ago, or a little over a month ago. He might still be champion by then. There's a lot of twists and turns that can come on there. Do you think there's any chance? Not any chance. Is there a significant chance that it goes a different direction? Punk wins a Rumble, but Cody takes on somebody else, and it's Punk and Gunther.
Nope, I think there's no chance of that at all. After what we saw on Raw Monday, and honestly believing that this is the biggest match that they can do for the WrestleMania main event, I think Punk wins, and there's nobody else he chooses other than Cody. I do think Gunther will still be the champion by WrestleMania, but I think after what we saw on Monday as well, his opponent could either be Seth Rollins by somehow, some way, or I hope it doesn't happen, but possibly Logan Paul.
That's the thing. They put that out there. I think there's a lot of things they put on TV that are not going to happen. They just wanted you to not know what's going to happen by making a lot of scenarios seem believable. I'm not ruling out that there's a 3 or 4-way match on one of the big matches too. I hope they don't do triple threat or fatal 4-way, but it just I don't hear us talking about that enough, and it's out there as a possibility. So you could do Seth and Gunther and Logan and Drew, for instance, just pack that match somehow, or some other mix and match of that type. I'm just trying to include all the big names.
I think I know what Drew's going to be doing at WrestleMania now.
Yeah, tell me.
I think it's Drew against Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I mean, Monday,
it could happen.
They absolutely want you thinking that after Monday's segment. I mean, why else do it other than they've been teasing a lot of things that might not happen. I'm looking forward to seeing things fall into place. Like the chat says, Ken Arnold, I'm not sure who wins either Rumble. That's what makes this year so different in a good way. Lots of good choices. And I think that is the case right now. So let me go to a question from Jonathan Ertl watching us on Facebook. He says, what about Punk's favor he needs to ask Heyman for? Will that play into the Rumble? Does that play into the Cody match that you're predicting happens? Where does that storyline piece play in your scenario?
I think there's possibly a chance where the favor he has is for him to get the number 30 spot. I think it could be maybe something along those lines. But I think we do see whatever that favor is cashed in tomorrow night.
Interesting. How do Heyman and Reigns have access to the 30 spot? Like in your as you see it play out.
I mean, we know Paul Heyman. We've known Paul Heyman for years. He finds ways to make things happen, from when he was a photographer back in the day at Madison Square Garden to when he was a manager to when he was the owner of ECW. He found ways to make things happen, whether they were legal or illegal. So I think he could definitely make a number 30 spot happen for CM Punk.
Is Dwayne The Rock Johnson? Someone in the second world held up a sign tonight. The Rock sucks. So he's on my mind in that sense. But they haven't even teased or hinted he's going to be there. There's just he was on Raw, extinguished any interest anyone had in anything he's doing, almost purposefully. I'm a good guy, not going to play the bad guy anymore. Cody, you're a good dude. Bye, everybody. Was that dropping our expectations? So it's even more surprising when he shows up. And would you be happy or sad, excited or disappointed if Rock injected himself into this?
Honestly, at this point, I hope he doesn't show up. If he were going to show up and be a part of it, I wish he had done something on that first Raw on Netflix a month ago. But the fact that it was like just a big love affair with him and Roman, and even him and Cody after everything he did to Cody last year, I'm not trying to see The Rock as part of the WrestleMania main event anymore. If he comes out at number 30, or God forbid there's a number 31 and he comes out, I'm going to be throwing furniture all over my house. I don't want to see that happen.
And I mean, the announcers in Wrestler have talked about 29 others without any hint or under I don't know, just like you don't sense they're saying it with the idea being maybe it's more than that. If 30. I think that'd be really dumb. I know it's just, I think it's just something that sort of caught fire and spread. And, he's a final boss. Final boss can just make up a rule. He's The Rock. He's on the board, whatever. People think he could just make that happen. But we're on the 10-year anniversary of Roman Reigns winning when nobody wanted him to. Batista won when nobody wanted him to. I have to think The Rock isn't so oblivious to think that would be well received. And not even in of course he could say, well, I'm a heel, I want to get booed, but like it would be a different kind of heel heat. It would be like, go away. There'd be like, he'd just be bombarded for weeks with go away Rock. We don't want you Rock chants. Like the crowd would really, really send a message to him. Stop messing with our WWE, the storylines that we've invested in. You're bigfooting everybody. We don't want you here anymore. It's crazy to say that because he's so freaking talented and charismatic and such a big global star, but there's a way to interject yourself into WWE and acting like you're a big shot who's going to bigfoot everybody indiscriminately and just disregard everything else that's going on is the part that sours fans on him.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, if God forbid that happens tomorrow, I will say it and believe it 100%. The Rock is the new Hulk Hogan, and that's not a compliment.
Yep. On the Fix podcast yesterday with Todd Martin, someone asked about that, and what would it take for Rock to be booed like Hulk Hogan, or racist comment coming out, or something along those lines, some controversial comment, secret comment coming out, but. People rejecting Hogan for different reasons over the years, way before the personal stuff came out. And Rock has kind of hit that stage. It happens to certain top stars in wrestling and otherwise. Ken Arnold says in the chat, Dwayne Johnson showing up would be a downer for a lot of people. I don't think WWE with a lot of goodwill and momentum wants to deal with that headache and potential PR nightmare. Well, right. They don't. Paul Levesque doesn't want to. I don't think Roman Reigns wants to deal with that. Paul Heyman, I don't think wants to deal with it. Cody Rhodes doesn't want to deal with it. In real life, doesn't mean that Rock can't make it happen. It's, he's got friends in high places, and sometimes people live in the clouds and don't really see reality. They just, last year he really thought he said it in the documentary. He's like, there's a certain number of fans you're going to draw with Cody, and then I'm going to bring in this whole other group of fans, and that's why it made sense, and he talked himself into it. But yeah, Sadler Version 3 says Rock already got booed last year for parachuting into WrestleMania season, so wouldn't be shocking if he was met with more boos. Derek Hubbard says it's interesting to think about, but a close majority of fans do not want to see The Rock take the place of the weekly stars on television. I think that's right. Okay, let's pause. Let's introduce the show. Let's introduce ourselves, and then we got other things to talk about. Stuff on SmackDown that isn't Super Royal Rumble winner related. Some subplots. Got Priest and Jacob Fatu in a battle. LA Knight in the mix. Tiffany promo. Whatever. A lot of stuff to talk about that's just sort of on the show itself. That's not top tier stuff like the U.S. title, Chelsea Green defense. But we also have a women's Royal Rumble to talk about and the tag division. Yeah, so we'll shift to that also. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Friday, January 31st, 2025. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, the editor, publisher, and founder of the long-running Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter. Predated the internet. We've been documenting wrestling history contemporaneously since the late 1980s with a whole team of contributors and great Torch Talk series of insider interviews before wrestlers were interviewed on podcasts, much less hosted them themselves. There's great access to a lot of our archives going back 35 plus years with a VIP membership. And this is a good time to become a VIP member. If you've ever kind of thought about doing it, just haven't done it yet, we will have our post pay-per-view roundtable tomorrow night. Todd Martin and Rich Fan will be joining me. They're two top PWTorch VIP analysts, and we'll be doing the roundtable. PWTorch.com/GoVIP gives you all the details. There's different tiers, different options to sign up. A full VIP membership unlocks those archives, gives you customizable RSS feeds for your Apple Podcast app, which is compatible with CarPlay or pretty much any iOS or Android app. You can also dive into our archives if you get a full VIP membership. And we have an ad-free website, so you can enjoy my written report on the Rumble live during the show tomorrow night with that VIP membership. However, you can also get a free trial through Patreon and get just a podcast-only subscription. Just search PWTorch VIP on Patreon or on Spotify, and you can get a 7-day free trial. So you can get all our Rumble coverage and everything we do for a week afterwards. And hopefully you'll let the subscription roll over and enjoy the benefits and keep supporting us. Anyway, so let's get back to introducing ourselves here. The co-host on tonight's SmackDown post show is Kurt Cadet. He is a PWTorch.com contributor. He writes for our website. Kurt, welcome back to the show. Your second appearance here. Very classy looking background. I feel like you've I don't know if you did that for the show or not, but man, that's like you. I think you're getting the best background award of our co-host this month.
I just mainly picked this background because of the lighting. I was actually sitting somewhere else, but I thought my lighting was better here, so I decided to roll with it over here.
It's almost too classy for us. It looks great. So tell people about a little bit about yourself, your contributions to PWTorch, and then we'll move on to other discussions.
Yes, I currently write weekly reviews for Monday Night Raw for PWTorch. I've been doing that for about the last 3 months. I also co-host a podcast about pro wrestling called Clash of Champions with my friend John Randall from college. We just recently did an episode with our Royal Rumble predictions that'll be out tomorrow morning, video version and audio version. And yes, I've been a longtime wrestling fan since 1994. Actually, that was the very first Royal Rumble I ever watched, was the 1994 one. And I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night's one, probably more than I have any one in years. So yes, it's definitely a great time of the year. I love this time of the year, it being WrestleMania season and also my birthday season. And there's nothing else I'd rather be doing than watching wrestling and talking about wrestling in a platform like this. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. I love your enthusiasm. I thought WWE, by the way, did a great job with Cole and McAfee being there at the podium. It gave it kind of set its main event, big event feel. They're just, from a production standpoint, I know some people don't care about it. They kind of just, not take it for granted isn't the word, but they don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. And that's fine. It's, wrestling fans care most about outcomes of matches and the wrestlers. But WWE is at another level when it comes to just their drone shots, arrow shots of the city. They just celebrate the town they're in. If you're a city, you got to love when WWE comes to town, because like McAfee's out there going, we are great when it comes to big events. We host them. Our restaurants and bars are ready. Our fans, our citizens know how to make you feel at home if you're coming in from out of town. And they're touting this is going to be the most attended Rumble of all time. People can say, well, the SmackDown content-wise sort of felt it's like not blockbuster, no big angle or hot angle at the end or anything, but they just give the sense that this is kicking off a really big weekend. And Joe Tessitore's doing a great job. Pat McAfee being in his hometown with Michael Cole made the show feel more important, even if the content of the show for 3 hours had some, I don't know, filler's the word. I mean, I think it was fine, but by the end, you're like, we're watching LA Knight and Damian Priest against Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. It doesn't feel super related to the Rumble, and but nevertheless, production value-wise, they're doing a great job. We've included some chat comments in the opening segment of the show. I just want to encourage everybody watching us live on YouTube to continue to drop comments into the chat room. We'll keep an eye on them. You can do super chats if you really want to get our attention, and almost guarantee we'll put it on the screen and react to it and give it some attention. And you can also email us. And so if you don't watch the show live, just email wadekillerpodcast@gmail.com. If you're watching us live, you can also do that, because then you can write a longer email that we can read rather than the chat, which is generally, text, very short. So wadekillerpodcast@gmail.com. A lot of you listen to the show on the podcast side of things, obviously, and you don't watch us live on YouTube, but you're still watching the wrestling shows live. You just have other things to do afterwards. That's totally fine, of course. But you can email us during the show, during SmackDown, Dynamite, and Raw, and you can be part of the show that way too. wadekillerpodcast@gmail.com. And then finally, if you're a PWTorch VIP member, I just plugged that a minute ago, or a Patreon supporter, there is a link for you to join us as a video caller, or you can turn the picture off and just be an audio caller, like our old days on Blog Talk Radio. So consider yourself invited to do that if you want to jump in with some Rumble comments and predictions or thoughts on SmackDown. And I think that covers the basic stuff. So let's get to other conversations. I mentioned, Kurt, the women's Rumble match. We had another vignette from Charlotte tonight. Thought she had some, good lines about who she is and, what she stands for. But mostly the Charlotte vignettes have given off the vibe of, I'm a big star. She said, I'm fortunate and blessed, yes, but I'm also history-making, groundbreaking, never scared, always prepared, self-made, always paid, and the top woman in WWE. Do you think she's the favorite to win? They haven't talked a lot about her winning. They've just had her vignettes up there. I think they're saving her first appearance for the pop at the Rumble. They even tried to talk us into Candice LeRae winning a little bit. It is a bit of a laugh line, yes. or Zelina Vega, saying she's going to win and go after the title. So, yeah, your thoughts on the women's Rumble and how deep. They haven't announced as many people, women for the Rumble as men, although there's a lot of unnamed names even in the men's match. How deep is your list of possible winners, and who is your pick?
My list is 3 people, and I'll say this: as good as a job as they've done with the men's Royal Rumble and building up suspense and building up unpredictability, for the women's Royal Rumble, they have done the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. It just feels like they didn't really put a lot into it, a lot of thought into it. Like they didn't really start announcing people until like about a week ago when they had that segment on SmackDown where all the women announced all at once. But with that being said, as far as my winners for the women's Royal Rumble, my number 1 pick to win tomorrow will be Charlotte Flair. I think she wins. And
she chooses
Tiffany Stratton. Yeah, it goes without saying. Yep. But if Charlotte does not win, my other 2 picks for the women's Royal Rumble are Bianca Belair being my number 2 pick and Io Sky being my 3rd pick.
Why Io Sky?
I remember that brief face-off that Io Sky and Rhea Ripley had on Raw about 2 months ago, I would say, right before the first Saturday night's main event. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they didn't just do that for no reason. So considering the fact that Rhea doesn't really have a lot of opponents on Raw, like a lot of opponents she hasn't really faced before, the only one I could think of on Raw right now would be Io Sky. So there is a chance that she could maybe win, and that's the match we get at WrestleMania. But a part of me really wants to see Rhea and Bianca Belair. I've been dying to see that match on the main roster pretty much since that 2021 Royal Rumble when they were the last 2. So if by some miracle we're able to get that match and Bianca wins the Royal Rumble tomorrow, that would be great.
So let's talk about Bianca Belair and Naomi and what they've been doing with them. In the backstage interview, I think it was Byron Saxton who said people are talking about, can you 2 get along? You're going to, turn on each other. What if one of you wins? Will they be jealous? A lot of people saying those things to them. And Bianca and Naomi just go, well, Bianca just says, hey, one of us is going to win and we're going to be friends and tag champs afterwards. Do you buy it? Do you buy it? And talk about the job that they've done with those 2 and the Jade Cargill mystery, because they haven't been hitting us over the head with dissension between them. There's been, they get asked about it, but it's not like they're just obviously not getting along and having to patch together an unholy alliance. They seem happy together and friendly, which, if Bianca's turning heel, she could be being phony or maybe. Go ahead. You talk about it.
I have liked their tag team. I did like Jade and Bianca's tag team a little bit more. They were kind of like, to me, the female version of the Mega Powers. And considering that they're playing this whole buddy thing up with Bianca and Naomi, like, oh, you're my best friend. Oh, you're my best friend. I'm going to be happy when you win. Oh, I'm going to be happy when you win. Considering all that, one of them eliminates the other tomorrow, and that's going to start their dissension. And I think I see Jade Cargill returning tomorrow too. And then we start to get the answers to who attacked her.
There's some comments in the chat room saying that. Kavanti Small says Jade may return at the Rumble. Glenn B says surely Bianca or Naomi are going to be set to go with Jade Cargill, who will be back at the Royal Rumble. And was there another? Okay, so let's stop with those 2 comments. How does this scenario play out? Like, does Jade show up and attack Bianca, and everyone's like, why is she attacking Bianca? And then Jade says, Bianca's the one who attacked me. If so, why didn't she say something sooner? But whatever, we can deal with the details later. Or what? Like if Jade returns, is that how we find out who attacked her? I guess is my question.
I think she comes back tomorrow night, but we don't get the full answer tomorrow night. I think she comes in the Rumble, and I think, there is some kind of confrontation with her and Bianca or her and Naomi. But I think I said this on the show when I was on the show last month. I think it was Naomi who did it. And within the next few weeks, we're going to find that out, and that's going to lead to whatever match we see with them at WrestleMania. But one thing I also know for sure, they are dropping those tag team titles to Liv and Raquel very soon. It's inevitable.
Yeah. I think that's the right thing to do. So if you want to see Bianca Belair against Rhea Ripley, Rhea's a mega babyface. People also love Bianca Belair. When 2 people are in the ring who fans like, it can come across as a special dream match. And if it's the right 2 people, it can draw. But it can also lead to some ambivalence on the part of fans. Mixed feelings. Who do I want to win? So are they going to, if they do that and it's Naomi who turns heel because she attacked Jade, then that means Jade probably faces Naomi at WrestleMania. And then Bianca would face Rhea Ripley. Do you see that as a face-face matchup? Do you see a problem with that? And how do they build that up so that both come out of it strong, whoever wins or loses?
I mean, I would like to see Bianca turn heel. It would be interesting to see her do that character because she hasn't done it in years. But I kind of gave up hope on that a long time ago because I just feel like she's too popular with little kids. She has too much of that, babyface factor and like that crossover factor. So I do think if it is Bianca and Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania, it is a babyface versus babyface, like a circa John Cena versus Batista type vibe. But I think even though they'll both be baby faces going into it, they could still build up a good story and like a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Anticipation for it, because that match just writes itself. That match between Bianca and Rhea, the two biggest female stars in the company pretty much in the last 3 years, I think that story writes itself. It doesn't matter who's babyface, who's heel. Just getting that match alone is a win for everybody.
So Sadler version 3 in the chat says Bianca turning heel would be interesting, but I think they do the face versus face thing because they're both popular. Talk about the dynamic there, because Bianca's in her 30s. She's an established top star. She's tag champ. She's been at the top of NXT and the main roster. Rhea Ripley, newer, younger, red hot babyface. What's the, in your mind, what is the best way to sell that match? Obviously, they both have established characters. Do you think it just sort of sells itself and they just don't even, they've got to exchange promos in the ring if they're both babyfaces and go back and forth. Yes. And so does one of them get a little nastier, have a little more edge to them? Or do they just act like they respect the hell out of each other and it's a dream match? Let's just go have a good match. I mean, not every match at WrestleMania has to be a blood feud or a personal grudge. I mean, there's 2 nights, there's a lot of matches. You absolutely can get away with just having 2 people going, you've established yourself as a best. I used to be established as that. I want it back. Bianca can make the case and be classy about it.
Yes, I think you could definitely sell dissension between the two of them and tension between the two of them, because I remember even before Survivor Series, there was that backstage segment, like when they were on the War Games team together, where they kind of had a little tension between each other. So I think you could definitely build off of that going into WrestleMania if that is the direction they go in. But yeah, just in general, I think that a babyface versus babyface dynamic works perfectly for these two. Although it would be great to see Bianca turn heel, I would be really happy if that did happen. I don't mind it if they do it with that scenario.
So you made your case that Naomi did it. Are there hints, or is it just wishful thinking, or you just think it's the best story to tell? And how sure are you? Because I still think there's a chance Bianca is the one who attacked her. And I can't read what they have done on TV as giving it away that that's the case. I don't think they've tried to steer us in one direction or the other. Goodfella 1422 in the chat says, I don't know if Bianca has it if in her soul can do it. She loves the kids, but I'll be her for it if it happens. And Cavanti Small says, when Bianca finally turns heel, her cutting off her hair braid extension will be epic, coinciding with the character change.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to think, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen either. Bianca was a really good heel in NXT. She does love, there's a wide swath of the audience that loves her, but the kids in the crowd, adolescent girls really look up to her, and I think she takes that role seriously. So does Cody in his role, and he doesn't want to turn heel. But I still, Bianca would be a great heel. New Day turned. It can happen, even acts that are popular with kids. And I think Bianca has more, I don't know. If you look at the depth chart, there's room for Bianca to be a top babyface or a top heel in the singles division, because she hasn't been on top as a single star for a while. She's been in the tag team with Jade and now Naomi. So it would still be fresh for her to be heel or face as a singles top star. But there's part of me that's just kind of ready and eager to see her really become a centerpiece top act. And I think it's more likely to happen for her turning heel and really freshening up her act.
It would be, like I said before, it would be great if it did happen. It's been so long since it has happened. In many ways, I wish John Cena had done it, like when his feud with The Rock was going on back on WrestleMania 28 time. Mm-hmm. But it's all about the kids. It's all about selling the merchandise to the kids, like being a role model for the kids. I even went to Saturday night's main event a few weeks ago when it was in Long Island, and there was this one little girl I was sitting next to who was really bummed out that Bianca Belair wasn't on the show. So you are not lying when we talk about the fact that she is very popular with those little kids, and I could see why they don't want to turn off that portion of the audience, and that's why they keep her in the role that she's in. But considering the way she dresses, like the glasses that she wears and how she calls herself the EST, I'm the best at this, I'm the best at that, those are kind of things a heel would say. So I don't think it's necessarily wrong to play into that, but I don't think they're going to, considering all those factors.
There's a lot of her heel act in NXT she just carried right over into her babyface act on the main roster, which I think at times wore in the audience a little bit. I think some people are like, you know, you like to talk big about yourself. And I mean, you can do it in a way where it works, but there are times I think where it showed that there's still room there for her to have a lot of fun and be a really effective top heel. Brock Benningfield says a Bianca heel turn would hit. So yeah, we'll see. Cavanti Small says the hair whip would be a great heel gimmick for Bianca behind the ref's back. So
yes, it would. Yes, it would.
She can keep that going. And then Brock Benningfield adds, I've seen the Bianca enthusiasm from young ladies at live events as well. Is Naomi, has she regained enough steam as an act? Is she kind of lost in the mix, gone away for a while? Is she worth being the person who attacked Jade? Like, has she shown enough, or is it just good for Jade to plow through her, and actually being the perpetrator of the attack is actually key for her to seem like she's at Jade's level? And I say at Jade's level, Jade's still green. She's new. She's not really been protected in tag matches, but her presence and the expectations for her is that she's going to be a top centerpiece act, heel or face, against Bianca, Charlotte, Tiffany, Rhea Ripley. You know, people imagine her against the top women in WWE. Is it worth investing that storyline reveal in Naomi compared to Bianca, given that it might have some pretty big impact?
I think so, because of the fact that Naomi, even though she's been back for the last year, she's lost a lot. She's lost all of her, championship opportunities among other matches. And also, I think back to when she was a heel 10 years ago, when they were doing the whole Team Bad stable with her, Tamina, and Sasha Banks. I thought personally she was good at it. I personally thought it was a nice switch up for her. It gave her something like, different to sink her teeth into. And in a situation like this, where they have a ready-made story and they could build to like a marquee match at WrestleMania, I think it would be a good idea. I mean, granted, we won't get the glow-in-the-dark entrance anymore and the colorful outfits anymore, but it's a small sacrifice, I think, to make in order to, do a story this compelling and a heel turn this compelling at that.
Yep. Let's look at the Women's Rumble again and look at any dark horse candidates. Is there a chance Naomi wins?
No.
Yeah, you're shaking your no. Yep. Among the names announced, which Nia Jax, she lost. She's been at the top. She had a great 2024. I think that's. I just think that would feel to been there, done that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could rule out her, and you could rule out Liv Morgan.
And I think Bayley too. Yeah. I think it's too soon for Raquel to be in that role. I think she's just going to be the one helping Liv at this point. I don't think they're quite ready to put her in that spot.
But I think she'll probably have the 94 Diesel performance in the Rumble match.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing. We're talking about winners now. There's this whole other layer of moments in the Rumble. What are the moments going to be? We'll kind of talk about some of the things that they've hinted at and set up there. Lyra Valkyria, she's a second-tier champion level. That's not going to happen. Ivy Nile, no, although she, as she should. She was on TV making a pitch for that. You already made a pitch for Io Sky. Bayley, I mean, it doesn't feel like that's in the cards. But the unnamed one, Jordynne Grace. She's a dark horse. Nikki Bella's name has been brought up as a possible entrant. She's not gonna come back and headline WrestleMania.
No way.
I'd be real surprised. I mean, I just don't think she's seen as that big of a star, to be honest. She's around for a long time. They know who she is, but I don't think she's perceived as a world title WrestleMania main event opponent just because she won the Rumble. I think that would, in a way, be disrespectful to ultimately Charlotte and Bianca, like as two people who would deserve that spot, and it would be taken away for Nikki to what end?
That's the last person I want to see win the Royal Rumble.
Yep.
No disrespect to her. I think she was pretty good in the ring. I feel like people were kind of too hard on her and her sister.
She was pretty good. Yeah.
But realistically, they were not my favorite act. But I do recognize how, big of the stars they both were, outside of wrestling with the Total Divas show and all the other businesses they had. But I don't see her as like in the marquee main event of WrestleMania, especially after being gone for so long.
So what about Jordynne Grace coming in from TNA?
It's possible. I think she'll have a good performance, kind of similar to how she had one last year. It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if she somehow won and it's like her and Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. That'd be a big match. But I don't see her winning. And there's another person who I think comes back tomorrow night. I don't see them winning either. Becky Lynch.
So elaborate on Becky.
I think Becky, who comes back tomorrow, obviously gets a big reaction. She'll have a good performance, but she does not win. I think her destination at WrestleMania is a match with Lyra Valkyria for the women's IC title.
Okay. I think if Becky came in and won, there could be. It's not anywhere near the Rock Backlash, but like the idea of the crowd wasn't sure about her for a while, and that heel turn that didn't work out, and then suddenly you're going to put her in a position to have fans go, wait, now you're bigfooting everybody else after being away for a while. Now, Charlotte can deal with that because her character isn't a wrestler of the people. She's not Cody. She's not Becky at her peak. Charlotte coming in and bigfooting people goes, well, I'm Charlotte. That's not Becky's character. It would seem, just sort of a meta sense bad. And then, what storyline is just waiting for her at that point? That makes sense. Like she comes in and takes on Tiffany, and they haven't even established that Tiffany is a full-fledged heel, Kurt. I mean, tonight, to me, she seems like a heel, but then you got LeRae and Jax going out there, and I think fans are watching going, are they turning Nia Jax babyface? Because Tiffany is so full of herself and just spewing these little, catchphrases. So I covered a few things here, but tell me about a little more about Becky and your thoughts on the pros and cons of her, but then talk about Tiffany and what you think they've done with her.
Well, first off, honestly, Becky's 2021, 2022 heel run, I personally liked it. I got a kick out of like her mannerisms, those wacky ass outfits she would wear and all that. And the feud she had with Bianca was great too. I personally liked it. I don't think she's going to come back and be a heel here, but I feel like her coming back and having like a feud on the side with Lyra Valkyria and making the women's Intercontinental title feel like a big deal with it being its first WrestleMania where it's defended. I feel like that would be a good direction for her where she's in something marquee and something special, but it's not taking away from like the main matches. And as far as Tiffany Stratton goes, I do agree that she kind of feels like in limbo right now, character-wise. Like you don't know whether to cheer for her or boo her, or if she's good or if she's bad. But considering that Charlotte's coming back and the way Charlotte's been marketing herself, being on the yachts, being on the jets, and wearing these crazy outfits and all that, I feel like Charlotte's gonna be the heel in that story, and that will officially turn Tiffany Stratton babyface.
Very good. So, anybody else we haven't mentioned coming in on the women's side?
Who could come in on the women's side? I could see Mickie James making a cameo. I don't think she'll win, but I could see her making a cameo.
Oh yeah, yep.
Her husband works there, so
yeah, definitely. So let's talk about the subplots in the women's match. We've talked about who's going to win. They've done less, so we have less to work with here than with the men. But what do you think are some little stories that they might tell in the Rumble with people announced, people we've talked about who aren't announced, or anybody else?
I think there'll be a story with Bianca and Naomi against Liv and Raquel. I think that'll probably play out in the match a little bit. Also, I think, like I mentioned, Becky and Lyra Valkyria, I think something will happen between them. And I think now that we bring up Jordynne Grace, I think Jordynne Grace and Nia Jax would be a good feud. That would be a good first feud for Jordynne Grace coming into the company.
Interesting.
So I could see a scenario where Jordynne Grace eliminates her, and then that kind of builds up momentum for her, and that kind of like sets things up for them going forward. And obviously, another thing we talked about earlier, the Jade Cargill situation. I think that'll definitely play a factor into the Women's Rumble.
Yep, definitely. So, same token, men's Royal Rumble, going to be 30, maybe 31, probably not. What are some other stories that they're going to tell in that match? Because there's there's going to be a final 6 that's huge. There's going to be a final 5 and 4 and 3 that feels epic, and It's like watch to me the last like 10 minutes of the Rumble. It's like watching the NFL playoffs in 10 minutes. Like you've got like 12 teams, and then it's like, oh my God, now we're down to 8, and then it's like 4, and then it's like all these dreams and all these different scenarios for the Super Bowl start just getting eliminated one game at a time every weekend in January. That's kind of how the Rumble is, except it's condensed into like this. Obviously,
1 hour match.
Well, yeah, there's going to be 1 or 2 big names, maybe 3, who are dumped out, eliminated in the first, 3/4 of the match. But there's obviously going to be some big names left who fans perceive as possible winners. They'll also have a dark horse or two to give, a Jey Uso, a Rey Mysterio, whatever, just to give kind of the mainstream casual fan a little hope and add a few bumps and spots to the match. But ultimately, I mean, it's going to come down to a final few. So there'll be a story that's told with the person eliminated 3rd and 4th from to last. Like whoever the final 4 are, there'll probably be a story that comes out of that. But there's going to be a lot of other subplots early with wrestlers we know and don't know. Like Braun Breaker, for instance. There'll be something with him. Logan Paul, there's going to be something with him that probably hints at what he's going to do at WrestleMania. Sami Zayn obviously has been a big part of storylines lately. He might make it to the final 6, 5, or 4. And then maybe that's where the story is, but maybe it's somewhere else. So anyway, yeah, I'll throw to you for your thoughts.
Well, after what we saw tonight on SmackDown, I think Jacob Fatu and Damian Priest are probably going to have something going on in the Rumble match. I also think the Sami Zayn story is going to play very much into it, where I think that Sami Zayn will probably have the Iron Man performance. So Sami Zayn and Rollins, I definitely think will be an issue. I think one of them eliminates the other. Roman and Drew McIntyre is inevitable. I definitely see that as a big feud going into this year. Yep. I think they definitely have some crazy stare down. Also, Punk and McIntyre, because obviously Drew said on Raw Monday he's coming for Punk and the Rumble, so we got to look out for that. And I see John Cena and CM Punk having one last face-off. Considering it's been so long since we've seen it, I definitely guarantee we see that at some point in the Rumble match. And I think that probably will be the final 2. I think it's probably going to come down to those 2. If I had to take a guess.
Yep. JC Scooby, by the way, predicts Jey Uso will be number 1 because of his entrance. I think that's really smart because you want him to be able to do, there's value in him being number 1 for a variety of reasons, but being the first one out and really kicking things off with his entrance through the crowd is really good. And then Goodfella 1422 says, I wonder if Jimmy would come in number 2, trying to fix the vibes from Mania last year.
That already happened last year.
Oh, so yeah. Well, yeah. Trying to think if anything else. Oh, this is interesting.
Oh, yes, Penta and Braun Breaker from what we saw on Raw Monday.
Yes. Yep. And then Mr. Moontrooper says, I think we'll get the Theory Waller split in the men's match when one eliminates the other. That'd be a small thing, but, yeah. I mean, that's the kind of thing they like to sprinkle in so people think it's not just about who's going to win the Rumble, because you can eliminate, 25 people, give or take, who aren't going to win. You want to make the rest of it interesting. Penta is notable in the sense that he's new. They don't want his exit to be unremarkable and just matter of fact. So they're going to want him to get in some spots and be, if they still believe he can be a top guy or, somewhere in the LA Knight range at the very least, I think they want something memorable for him. So, as you said, they'll be, there's a story that they can tell there also. Braun Breaker's going to have big moments in that. I mean, Braun is a stud. He is a, big time. I mean, 3 years from now, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, he's likely to be a top 4 guy in that company, babyface or heel. I mean, I think he's blossomed beyond expectations from what people in NXT thought he would do. So, yeah. Braun's going to have moments in that match too. Well, let me ask you specifically about Sami and how you think they might incorporate different ways that they can incorporate his story, his not grievances, but kind of growing dreams that are getting derailed, and he's hitting people. They don't trust him. It's an accident. I don't know if KO will be in the mix depending on when the Cody match happens. Your thoughts on Sami?
Like I said before, I think he has the Iron Man performance where he's going to eliminate a bunch of people probably people wouldn't have expected him to eliminate. So it's going to kind of like build up, I think, throughout the Rumble. And then towards the end, I think he's going to get eliminated, similar to how Shawn Michaels got eliminated from the 2010 Royal Rumble. And it's going to be like this big heartbreak, this big letdown. It's possible that Kevin Owens may play a factor in that if the Kevin Owens and Cody match goes on before that. But yeah, I think considering how they've been building this whole story with Sammy the last 3 weeks, how he's been intertwined with everybody from Punk, Rollins, Kevin Owens, etc. I think he's probably the one who's going to be in there the longest and intertwined with those people throughout it. But he doesn't win.
Yep. I'm looking forward to bringing Jason D from Australia into the conversation in just a moment. I'm going to read a few chat comments as we were talking there, Kurt. Brock Benningfield said, Jacob should definitely have some developments. Jacob thought too. JC Scooby, 1976 says, I think Penta will be number 2 to showcase him. Goodfella1422 said the NXT review guys on the PWTorch Dailycast earlier this week. Search PWTorch, subscribe. You're missing out if you're not. They made a solid case for Sammy. Then Cavanti Small says, I'm still waiting for Breaker to sink his teeth into a good storyline as Intercontinental Champion. Goodfella1422 agrees that Penta at number 2, perhaps against Jay. That'd be a weird chemistry if that's the case, but could be good. Cavanti Small says, I still say Sammy is a modern-day Mick Foley minus the hardcore stuff. So
and the ugly clothes.
And what?
And the ugly clothes, too.
Yes. All right, cool. Let's go to Jason D. Always great hearing from him. Jason, welcome to the conversation. Jason D. from Australia. What is on your mind about SmackDown tonight and the Rumble tomorrow?
Yeah, thanks, Wade and Kurt. I've been enjoying the conversation and all the predictions. And you mentioned now I'm starting, obviously I had Jey Uso as number 1 or number 2, but now I'm starting to think Penta is number 2 as well, because then you can see Jey and Penta doing sort of like a yeet zero metal type of thing, one after another, and getting the crowd involved. So now I'm starting to think, Jey and Penta is 1 and 2. Kind of makes sense. You can see that kind of happening.
Yep.
I actually think I see what Kurt's saying about Sammy being a Iron Man. I kind of see Logan Paul playing the role as Iron Man, but not actually eliminating anyone, because he actually made a smart point on Raw where he said, I don't have to throw everyone over the top rope. I just have to outlast them. And he's right, because you never find anyone who throws 29 people over the top rope. So I could actually see him lasting a long time without actually eliminating anyone and pointing to his head as if to say that's a smart thing to do. In relation to Sammy, I can actually see him eliminating Drew McIntyre to make up for the 11 losses that he has. So that could be some form of redemption against Drew after all the losses that he's had. And like Kurt said, I can see it being Cena and Punk being the final 2, and Punk eliminating Cena. And the reason for that is that because Cena is advertised for the Elimination Chamber, that's going to be his final chance to try to get to the main event to actually win the championship and tie for 17. So that's the way I see it playing out. I guess a point I wanted to raise, and in relation to Roman Reigns, it just seems like that his character, just from an overall vibe and, I don't know, feel, kind of lost a little bit of momentum since he won that, official tribal chief type of title. The title that goes with it, being the tribal chief. It seems like all the momentum from a character point of view is with Kevin Owens, with CM Punk, obviously Cody Rhodes, Seth, Jacob Fatu, not to mention him. Roman Reigns, where are you guys seeing him in the moment as far as his overall importance? We know he's going to play a role, but I'm not really sure now. To me, it seems like his importance and just, I don't know, my excitement towards him has sort of waned a little bit. Am I the only one that feels that?
Kurt, what do you think?
No, I feel the same way, especially considering that he hasn't really been around a lot since Survivor Series. I think since Survivor Series, we've only seen him once, and that was the Tribal Combat match. So that's why I feel that, considering all that, I think he'll have a good showing in the Rumble tomorrow, but I think a confrontation with Drew is going to happen, and that's going to start to set up things between the two of them at WrestleMania, because honestly, that's kind of the direction I'm seeing right now. I can't see Roman going against Cody again. I don't think the Rock match is happening. So ruling those two guys out, the only other big match I could see Roman in this year would be, Drew McIntyre, which isn't a bad thing because Drew's been basically targeting all of Roman's allies ever since he came back. So it makes sense for him to eventually get to Roman, and then they have a big marquee match at WrestleMania, which I don't mind, but I do agree. Yeah, Roman has not really felt as special in the last few months, but hopefully that will change going into Mania season.
I think with if Roman wins the Rumble, I don't know what Punk's favor would be that he could have forecast he would need, because Punk isn't the type to go, well, I wanted to hedge in case I lost, and my favor is include me in the match or something like that. Like, so, and I don't think Roman Gunther just feels out of the blue, so and Roman Cody running that back again seems weird. And that's why we're not talking as much about Roman. It just doesn't seem like there's that clear path. So that could be why he's kind of laying low a little bit, because in their mind, they're trying to protect him from raised expectations, because if he doesn't win, he's such a big, important star for WWE. They don't want it to seem like he failed at something that he was very honed in on. But when Netflix made their debut, it was like, oh, we're going to see Cena every week. We're going to see Reigns every week. This is going to be, WrestleMania Royal Rumble season. And, it seems like the Cena comeback tour, as I think McAfee said, starts at the Rumble. Like, this month has just been a write-off other than the first Netflix and a video package. And I think, Kurt, you're right. And I think the idea of Cena coming up short in the Rumble and then entering the Chamber makes sense in part because of what Cena laid out on Raw, on his return promo, which is, hey, if I can't do this, and I'm going to try to win the Rumble, but there's only 3 ways to do it. There's a Rumble, there's Elimination Chamber, and there's Money in the Bank. So he already kind of prepared his fans for the possibility it's a long journey for him to get what he wants. And since he hasn't been on TV much, it kind of, my logic about Reigns applies to Cena. They don't want fans excited, who are Cena fans, excited about him winning a match that he's not going to win. Therefore, he hasn't been a big part of the hype. And that's where I think the odds should be low for him winning. But that could also be WWE just laying low, just not wanting to make it obvious. They want praise for not making it obvious who's going to win. So they spend all their time trying to convince you others are going to win when it is just Cena winning, and they take the sort of path of least resistance, and we get Cena Cody. I like Cena Gunther, by the way, one way or the other, because I think Gunther has years left as a top star, and I think he has a lot to gain from WrestleMania season interaction for weeks and weeks, if not months, with Cena. Depending on the time frame of when Cena secures the match. So there's part of me that likes that, and I think Gunther would bring out great Cena promo content. I think those would be really fresh back and forth promos. So all that said, Jason D, back to you. Your response to anything Kurt or I said.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I like the idea of Cena versus Gunther. And for the other title match, I wasn't overly keen on Punk and Rhodes, because I thought that might go down talking about, you left and all the rest of it. I was a bit over that. But after Monday's segment, which I thought was just phenomenal with Punk and Cody.
Great stuff.
Oh, just unbelievable. I mean, CM Punk's on top of his game, the way that he talks, the way that he pauses, the way that he mixes in with, work and shoot, so to speak, not to overuse those terms. Even referring back to Kevin Owens, like, they start getting personal, but then Punk refers back to the story of Kevin Owens, or in storyline, how Kevin Owens has lost 5 title matches at the Royal Rumble, how he lost to Logan Paul. So he can incorporate the real life, but then throw in what's actually happening on screen in a work sense. So you buy into everything. He's just on top of his game as far as promos are concerned. So now I'm really keen on Cody versus Punk, because I like what Punk said to Cody, and then almost them teasing this story of the weight of that championship really starting to get to Cody. So they've got numerous ways they can go here. But just getting back to Sami Zayn, if Randy Orton was to come back, I keep thinking he's going to turn. But say he doesn't and gets revenge on Kevin Owens in this match and costs him to help Cody, one way Kevin Owens could be upset against Sami is saying, where were you in the match when Randy Orton attacked me? You were meant to have my back. So then you could see Kevin Owens actually interfering in the Royal Rumble and costing Sami Zayn, because Zayn wasn't there for him when Orton came back. So that's the way I can see that story playing out, because we would expect Randy Orton to want to get revenge on KO. And I guess of all the matches to do it in an anything goes type of match, the ladder match is the best match to do it. Moving on to the women, when you're talking about
Jason, pause for 1 second. Kurt, talk about Randy Orton and what Jason had to say there. I don't want to necessarily move on from that.
Oh yeah, that could
No
definitely
comment.
happen. I could
Yeah.
definitely see that as a possibility. I think Kevin Owens' opponent at WrestleMania is either Randy Orton in this scenario or Sami Zayn in the other scenario.
Mhm.
But if we get Randy Orton and Kevin Owens at WrestleMania, I think we get Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber, especially considering that is going to be in Canada. So that would make sense. But yeah, I do think we see Randy Orton return tomorrow night, whether it's in the Rumble match or he interferes in the championship match. And yeah, that'll set the wheels in motion for a match between Kevin Owens and Randy down the line. I was thinking we would maybe see Cody and Randy Orton at WrestleMania a few months ago, but at this point now, there's no other main event I want to see other than Cody against CM Punk.
Okay, Jason, back to you.
Yeah, and just before I touch on what's happening with the women, I really want to see a showdown between Braun Breaker and Jacob Fatu in the ring. Kind of just a standoff between the two of them, just to tease it. And you can see it happening either where everyone's sort of just laying down after they've copped spears and whatever from Jacob Fatu, and it's the two of them, or you get the standoff with the two of them where they're the only two in the ring, sort of similar to Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior from Royal Rumble 1990. So I can definitely see a showdown between Breaker and Jacob Fatu, and the crowd will be right into it.
Yes.
I guess with the women, the only reason why I wouldn't think Bianca Belair is the person who attacked Jade Cargill is because the way it played out, Bianca was in the middle of a match for the United States Championship. Why would she choose to leave that match to check on what happened with Jade? I mean, is she prepared to give up this opportunity to be the first ever Women's United States Champion, to play this whole big ruse that the fact that she's the one that attacked Jade Cargill? I just can't see it the way that it played out. Naomi I can see, but not Bianca, despite the fact, yes, many people would love to see Bianca turn heel.
Kurt.
Yeah, I agree with them. I think Naomi would be the better idea because, Bianca was in a match when Jade got attacked. So why would she attack Jade and then leave in the middle of her match to go help Jade out? Yeah, that wouldn't really make any sense in that scenario. So that's why I think it was Naomi, and we will find out that it was Naomi within a few weeks. And tomorrow night, I think we see, like I said before, Jade returning, and then we're going to start to finally get some answers.
Excellent. Jason.
I just think I agree with what you guys are saying. The build for the Women's Royal Rumble hasn't been the best, but I'm still interested to see how it plays out. But I think the key thing they've done, and they've done such a great story with the men. It's not about who actually wins the Royal Rumble, because that's one story. It's the ramifications of losing. And there are so many stories you can tell with so many wrestlers where what are the ramifications of them losing and where do they go from here? Because as you know, Wade, one of the key questions that's always asked if you're a wrestling booker and you're writing for 52 weeks a year is, and then what? Yeah, all right, so we've had that, and then what? Yeah. And I feel like Triple H has got that at the front of his mind, is that we always have to answer the question, and then what? So this person loses, what story are we telling from there, and then what? Because it's never like a full stop on things. And I think they've done a great job by making so many people feel like this Royal Rumble is important. Now they can tell 5 or 6 stories coming out of it, and they're going to feel important because they're going to sell the loss of the Royal Rumble. So he's done a really good job with that. And just to back up your point about why production is important and all these camera shots they do in the overall feel, well, the reason why it's important is because at the end of the day, we are watching professional wrestling, right? I mean, I've been a fan for, 35 years, but, it's wrestling. So if I'm going to watch professional wrestling, I want to feel like what I'm watching has professionalism to it. I want to feel like it's important. And not forgetting that, they're getting paid hundreds of millions, billions of dollars for this product. So they have to make it as top-notch as possible. So when people tune into this, if they happen to be tuning in for the first time or not for a while, they can feel like they're actually watching something that's had a lot of effort and it's got professionalism to it. So they don't feel bad for watching professional wrestling, because we can't change what goes on in the ring, but the way we present it, and if it's coming across as professional as possible, we're not going to feel as bad as watching it and be like, you know what? I can invest my time into this because actually coming across professionals and it's important. So that's why production is so important in the way you present your product. So anyone that says, oh, no, it's too much detail or whatever, they don't have to do that, they're wrong. It's all about the overall presentation.
The vibe of WWE right now is in its inaccurate vibe is a mega successful form of entertainment that is bigger in many ways than it's ever been internationally. From a ticket sales standpoint, say what you will about Hulk Hogan and Steve Austin and The Rock and John Cena. They weren't filling this many stadiums per year. They weren't filling stadiums in this many countries. There's different metrics, and some metrics are lower. It's a different time for sure, but it's massive. And part of that is it feels like WWE wrestlers are big stars, and part of that is production. And I think AEW had a window, and it's closed on that. And I don't think they have the atmosphere now to really make their wrestlers feel like big stars like they once did. WWE is doing that. They are taking nothing for granted. They are not shy about touting, how big the crowds are going to be, how big the crowd is, how many sellouts they've had. But the aerial shots of the city showing fans arriving at the arena and giving off the vibe of how exciting it is to be among other wrestling fans who feel as passionate about the product as they do. Jimmy Uso walking through the concourse in the crowd, showing so many different views of even just people in line for merchandise. They've really clearly established the feeling that if you're at a WWE event, it's a big party with a bunch of like-minded people you've never met before, who all are there to see the WWE brand, but that brand is made up of more top stars who feel like top stars than they've had at any one time ever. I think Steve Austin at his peak was bigger than anybody in WWE right now, including Roman Reigns. I think Hulk Hogan at his peak, in certain ways, was bigger than anybody in WWE. But if you look at the top six, it's blow away. Like top six men and women total. The star power right now is way bigger than it's ever been in any other WWE era when you look at the top six or top 8 or top 10. I mean, it's deep. And they're taking advantage of that. But part of what makes them feel like big stars is what you're saying, Jason, what I touched on earlier. You've got to frame them in an atmosphere that feels like it's possible that a big star would be in this atmosphere. And WWE feels like a place that if you're a big star, you want to be there. If you're a wrestler, but also if you're a non-wrestler. They're doing a great job. Halliburton, McConaughey, all the hip-hop stars that they've had. I mean, it's just one week after another, they're making WWE events feel like the place to be. The title belts that go to Super Bowl champs. And, I mean, they're everywhere in pop culture. So they are a juggernaut. Kurt, you want to add anything to this?
Oh, yes, definitely. Production is a big factor in making WWE as big as it is. Even when I was a kid, that was probably the biggest difference I noticed between WWE and WCW was just the production and the presentation. Like when I watched WWE, it felt like Hollywood. It felt like a big show. It felt like a big deal. And that's one of the things that kind of drew me more towards that than WCW and also ECW to a smaller degree. Although I like both of those brands, they were also great in their own way. I always knew because of the production and just everything they put into it that WWE was the end all be all. And they've proven that through all the boom periods they've had, whether it was the golden era of the 80s, the attitude era, or the era they're living in now. That's what I've always noticed about them is that they really treat it like it is a big deal. And when you are at a show, specifically a WrestleMania, that is exactly the vibe that you get. And that's why they are leagues and bounds ahead of all the other wrestling companies, no matter how much momentum they may build, no matter how many good wrestlers they may have or talent they have. Just nobody on the level of WWE. And it's definitely not AEW these days. And we're going to see a lot of that tomorrow night in the Royal Rumble with the star power we have in the Rumble match, not to mention the other major matches we have. It's just another prime example of why WWE is the show.
Jason, back to you.
I mean, I always look at it like, I know this is a cliche, but if someone was tuning in for the first time, what would their overall impression of the vibe of the product be? That it is professional wrestling. Because no matter who it is, no matter what you do, it's always going to have that bit of a stigma. But if you're watching WWE for the first time, are you watching something where it feels like it's important? And they make you feel like everyone comes across like it's important, it's professional, and just the overall look of the product. You don't feel like you're wasting your time watching it because you feel like there's effort being put into it. So that's the point that I wanted to raise.
And another note, Jason, on that is they talk about their history. And when you talk about the history, and I don't think they overdo it, but they do it really well. It makes you realize that it makes you feel that what you're watching now, you keep saying, it's important. what you're watching now, you believe is going to be talked about in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, because today they're talking about what happened 5, 10, and 15 years ago and 30 years ago. And so if you ignore your history, you're telling people what you're watching now doesn't matter after today or after this year. So they've really found just a really good, I think, sweet spot in terms of mixing in reverence for the past, acknowledging the past as a way to boost today. They used to make it seem like the past was bigger and better. That was a big knock on a lot of the post-Attitude eras. It just felt like they were always sort of like selling themselves short. And I thought Drew McIntyre a couple weeks ago came out and just said, hey, we are the top drawing roster of all time. We are drawing the biggest crowds. Now, they don't run as many house shows as they used to, and the metrics have changed without pay-per-view and on and on. I mean, there's all kinds of things like that. Saturday's Main Event does nowhere close to the numbers it used to do on NBC. Obviously, there's big changes in the metrics. But Drew can make the case, and he did. Let's not have a self-defeating attitude. We are the crew that is drawing record revenues and record numbers and record ticket prices and all that. A lot of other factors at play, but they have bragging rights to that. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, now more than ever, they're using what's happened in the past, especially from a storyline and match result point of view, to drive stories in the future. Whether it's, a lot of it might be a happy coincidence, or they're just saying, listen, how we can do this. Even Drew McIntyre Monday, from his point of view, thinking that he's the reason why this whole Roman Reigns era began, because Paul Heyman had to leave Brock Lesnar after Drew McIntyre took everything from him, and Heyman had to go to Roman Reigns, and that's how it all started. I mean, that happened 4.5 years ago, but that was such a great thing for Drew to bring up. They're owning their past a lot, and it's using it as a precipice to drive forward with new storylines.
Jason, I want to throw to you on this. Goodfella1422 says, okay, flipping again, Drew wins the Rumble. If Drew won the Rumble, that eliminates Roman versus Drew, unless Roman beats Gunther or Cody somehow between now and then. So I want to get Jason's thoughts on this, Kurt, the possibility of Drew winning. If that were to happen, what's the story that they tell, and where does it land?
Well,
or do you just not see it?
Yeah, look, I like the name Goodfella, but I don't see Drew winning. But if he did, who would he likely to face? Well, the top opponents for him would either be Cody or it'd either be Roman.
Can WrestleMania headline with Cody versus Drew?
I don't think so.
I know. I don't know why I don't think so, but I don't. I mean, like, Drew is doing great mic work. He's a top guy, former world champ. Cody was red hot. Go ahead, Kurt. Yeah.
I think Cody and Drew could headline SummerSlam, but not WrestleMania.
Yeah. They're just not, for whatever reason, it just doesn't. I mean, the promos would be great, but yeah, it does have a SummerSlam vibe to it. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah. No, I don't see that happening. But if it would either have to be Drew versus Cody or Drew versus Roman, right? But then somehow Roman will have to win the champion, because Drew did say he said it a few weeks ago, he wanted to go through everyone in the bloodline. And remember, he talked to Solo about this, that he's happy that Solo was going to do this for him, because he was trying to go through them one by one. So if they wanted to tie that back in, yeah.
Yeah. Anything else about the Rumble, Jason, or anything else about SmackDown?
No, I'm going to leave it at that. But since you got Kurt on, Kurt, let me ask a personal question here, right? So you started watching wrestling in 1994, okay? So you're a young guy. One of my favorite
10 years old.
10 years old. So this is perfect, right? So I was 12 at the time. Go to Survivor Series 94. You said on the last show that you're a big Bret Hart fan. When Bret was facing Bob Backlund in that I Quit match, and Owen Hart was pleading to his mother to throw into the towel, and he was showing so much angst and heartache towards Bret, as a 10-year-old, did you buy into Owen? Because I have to admit, he convinced me. Did you buy into it?
I'll be honest, I'm actually glad you asked that. I remember watching that show that night on pay-per-view, and yes, I did buy it. I bought it like everybody else did, but then when he revealed that it was all a ruse, I'm like, oh my God, he got us. Oh my God.
It was so good, wasn't it? It was so good, Owen back there. What about you, Wade? Obviously, you didn't buy into it. You know, you were a little bit older and you knew what was going on, but what a great performance I thought that was. He's pleading. Brings me back.
Fun stuff.
Anyway, guys, mate, looking forward to Royal Rumble. Take it easy. Expect you soon.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for calling up. All right, very good. Kurt, I want to talk about Cody KO. I mean, we've kind of circumvented it a bit here. I think the build for it has been tremendous. I didn't think they could get me to care about another Cody KO match or even have it cross my mind. Maybe Kevin Owens can win. I mean, I can brush that aside even if I entertain it briefly. But I think Kevin Owens has been so entertaining with the T-shirts, and I thought the Tessitore interactions tonight were great. I thought Tessitore was tremendous. I wrote that in my TV report and explained why. I think Tessitore has just found the right tone. He has good instincts. He's produced well. He's delivering. And so that, and then obviously it's just epic. I mean, the crowd just like, holy shit, this is KO and Punk opposite each other. When everyone's thinking maybe not WrestleMania, but we want to see this match. It's already magic on the microphone. So did they do enough with Cody tonight on the final show before he defends the title? I mean, he's body surfing next to Michael Cole in a clip from the pre-show. And I mean, that can hurt Cody's cool factor if he's just joshing around the day before a serious world title defense with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. It can make it seem like he's not taking it seriously and he's a dork because Michael Cole's a dork. And if you hang out with Cole, your cool factor goes down. And then Monday, it was so compelling. You know, his voice was sort of down and Punk's making the case you're worn out and you don't have the energy. And then they go and I felt it was a little tone deaf to show that. But the devil's advocate to what I just expressed is in a big picture, it shows Cody is a company guy. He doesn't take himself too seriously. And it's the Cody brand is he has fun doing this kind of thing. He has fun showing up to the job. It just goes against what they kind of were establishing Monday. So I'm not quite sure what to think of the final build. I don't think the final build for KO Cody was great because now they got us thinking more about KO Punk. The good part about the build, Kurt, is they made you think maybe Kevin Owens is going to win because they laid out a scenario where you going into that match can tell your friends who didn't watch SmackDown and they think, oh, Cody's winning. Of course he's winning. You can go, wait a second. Kevin Owens, CM Punk can headline. Cody's better chasing the title. CM Punk made the case Monday that he's worn out and someone fresher is going to come in and take it from him. They did spend this week trying to create some doubt. And by talking about Kevin Owens being the incumbent champion, I think they tried to at least extend that. So, yeah, mixed thoughts on this week and tonight in particular. Your thoughts?
To be honest, tonight I wasn't expecting them to do much as far as doing one last final build to Cody and KO because I feel like they've kind of done everything they can do up to this point, specifically last Saturday with the contract signing at Saturday night's main event. I figured that was pretty much going to be the last time we saw them before Rumble, although we saw them on Monday. So from what we got tonight, as far as I'm concerned, I think the promo package they did for the match was more than enough. The KO and Punk segment, for me personally, was just a treat, like an extra treat.
Yeah.
And overall, this has been Cody's best feud he's been in since he's been the champion, because I know that was a major complaint about his title reign when it first started, was that he didn't have enough credible challengers who we thought had a chance of beating him. But with his Kevin Owens feud that's been going on since the end of August, it's been definitely the best thing he's been a part of since having that title. And Kevin Owens, like you said before, has done a masterful job in his role with the T-shirts mocking his opponents, like the one he wore 2 weeks ago where he said, the Canadian dream, the son of an electrician. That was hilarious.
Yep.
And also the Naomi shirt he wore last week in his match with Jimmy Uso. Yeah, the stuff he's been doing has been great. I mean, he's not going to win tomorrow, but at the same time, the stuff he's been doing heading into this match has been top-notch. And while he has lost 5 championship matches at the Royal Rumble, tomorrow is going to make number 6. But regardless of that, I have enjoyed this feud. I've enjoyed what they've done with it for the most part. I was actually at the Saturday night's main event when Kevin Owens hit Cody with the pile driver, and I saw the heat that resulted from that. But I think we all know how this match ends.
So do you think the Sammy factor is in a general mainstream audience for WWE is making people think KO does have a chance? Because nobody thinks KO is going to beat Cody clean, but if Sammy helps, well, maybe that is believable, and then Cody has an out. He lost the title, but did he lose it? He lost it because Sammy turned on him and helped KO. Or the other side is you sort of think in a meta sense, booking-wise, they're already telling us KO's not going to win. He's going to pivot to a feud with Sammy when Sammy doesn't help him, even though he could. it can undercut the match in the sense that everyone's just going to be sitting around waiting for Sammy to show up. They won't take any near falls seriously until then. So has the Sammy thing helped or hurt people's investment in the match?
I think it's helped a little bit. I think it adds a little bit more intrigue. Even though the match in a way is predictable does not always mean bad. And with Sammy being implemented into the match, it does add more interest. It does add more suspense of how the match is going to end. Because sometimes it's not necessarily about the result or the outcome. It's about how you get there. And with the Sammy factor in it, it's now like about how they get to the final result of the match. So that part of it I have liked. And personally, I'm going to disagree with you. I did like Michael Cole and Cody Rhodes doing the crowd surfing earlier. I thought that was entertaining.
Well, I put out there that it's good for Cody's brand that he doesn't take himself too seriously because, he is rather ostentatious, with his clothes and, it can come across a little like he takes himself too seriously in certain realms. So when they show that, that's good. But do you disagree with me that it contradicts the story Punk laid out and the body language of Cody Monday, that he's a worn out champion and that it's the grind is getting to him? And they were trying to create a sense of vulnerability in Cody going into WrestleMania season. That's what I thought the end result of that promo is maybe Cody is a lame duck. Maybe the grind is getting to him. And him body surfing and being all happy with Cole, set aside the dork part, it does make it seem like, well, he seems fine to me. Maybe he isn't vulnerable to KO.
Maybe he was just having a bad day on Monday.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, then certainly. And that could be it too. By the way, Standard Deviation jumps in and goes, do you think all these pre-Rumble red herrings will be resolved later in the year in storylines that have already been mapped out? Would they already have KO and Punk penciled in for a specific PLE?
Yes.
I think so too. Yeah. I don't think they're making us care about matches or want matches that they're not going to deliver on Kurt. I mean, maybe something with, I'm trying to think of an example, Zelina Vega. Like maybe she isn't going to be in a title match. I mean, that could be a red herring. It's just, but for the most part, yeah, I think whether they did red herrings or not, these are matches that are obviously money matches fans want to see. So the fact that they're teasing them, even if they don't happen in the next 3 months, I think we'll get later this year.
Yes, definitely. I definitely see us getting Gunther and Seth Rollins at some point, Gunther and Logan Paul at some point, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, also Punk and Cena perhaps, or Cena and Drew McIntyre, Roman and Drew McIntyre. All these matches I see us getting sometime this year.
Yes. Okay. I want to give some attention to the tag team match at the Rumble. There is another match in the Rumble besides the two Rumbles and Cody and KO. Tonight, DIY, we're in a 8-man tag match, Motor City Machine Guns 2. Felt kind of like time filler, but there's some stuff afterwards with it that tried to establish now that Pretty Deadly have had enough of DIY. They're not going to help them, so maybe that sets up the Machine Guns winning after all. Talk about that match and the build and the 2 out of 3 falls format and how you think this fits into the Rumble lineup.
I think it's going to be fun. I think it could possibly open the show, and if they're given enough time, I think they could have a really standout match. I've seen many great tag team matches at the Royal Rumble before, specifically one I remember, the Rockers and the Orient Express from 1991. If this match could be every bit as good as that match, if not better, I think we are in for a treat tomorrow night. And I'm happy that they're having this match at this show because I don't think the tag team titles on SmackDown have been defended at a PLE, I think, since WrestleMania last year.
Oh, wow.
If I remember correctly.
Wow.
And with these two teams, especially considering that this will be Motor City Machine Guns' first PLE for WWE.
Shows? I think you're in it froze for just a sec, Kurt. So if I talked over you, I'm sorry.
Good.
Yep. And I also think for the Machine Guns, I mean, it's just like, how cool. Like, I'm not saying Paul Levesque is going, we need to give a gold watch to somebody to the detriment of the business we were trying to do. But the Machine Guns are good, and I think they gave them a big push out of the gate, and I think fans see them as a polished, serious veteran act who deliver in the ring with really cool, tandem moves. And what a tip of the hat and a tribute to two of the best tag teams of this era. Gargano and Ciampa and the Machine Guns getting a spotlight 2 out of 3 balls match at the Rumble. I just think it's kind of a cool thing for Levesque to have agreed to put on this card.
Yes, definitely. I'm glad he put this match on the show. Tag team wrestling, I feel like, does not get enough love. I think I even wrote that in my Raw review this week. And this is one example of them heading more in the right direction with them giving us a tag team title match with 2 great teams at a PLE. I think if they are given enough time, if they're given at least 15 minutes, it'll be an incredible match. And I listened to the show last week. I heard you guys talk about it, how it could just be 2 quick falls and then they go to the third one. I sincerely hope that does not happen. I hope that they're given enough time. But at the end of the day, as great of a match as it probably will be, I think DIY will retain. Despite what happened tonight with Pretty Deadly telling them that they're on their own and they're not going to help them out, I think they find a way to retain somehow. Probably by cheating, but they'll retain.
They did a lot with the tag teams tonight. Fatu and Tamatanga as a team, a makeshift team with Priest and LA Knight, Legado del Fantasma on camera. I mean, it felt like the 3-hour SmackDown has created the real estate for what feels like the beginning foundation of a robust tag team division in 2025. And I think putting this match on the Rumble as one of 4 matches is signaling that too, that they want this title to seem important. So therefore, one way to do that is where we place it. And it is now a major PLE match. A couple chat room comments. Goodfella1422 says, I hope tag teams open the show. KO and Cody in between the Rumbles otherwise. He also says, Triple H letting the tag teams work on SmackDown lately. I'm enjoying it. Hope it doesn't ghost on 2-hour shows. Brock Benningfield said, DIY have found their footing. Ciampa's character work is great. I like how different Ciampa and Gargano are. Ciampa's a hothead. Gargano is the obviously insincere peacemaker. He's a snake, but he puts up the front of, this isn't time to argue, guys. Let's not do that. But obviously he's as underhanded and devious, if not more so than Ciampa. So I like the dynamic there.
Yeah, they've been a great team. Yeah, I've liked their work being heels ever since they turned a few months ago. And I feel like considering that, it's too soon to take the belts off of them. So they will retain tomorrow.
Glenn B says, anyone mentioned Shinsuke Nakamura being in the background for everything with the singles people tonight?
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
I didn't either. I was hoping you did. Then, so elaborate, Glenn, about that. And someone else says, was that him, Glenn? Speculation, it was a Wyatt. So maybe, the Wyatt 6. I mean, in terms of the Rumble, they could help fill out the 30. And I don't think they would get involved in the tag match in any way. But there's a possibility Pretty Deadly still do get involved, but they sabotage DIY and turn babyface, and then you got Waller in Theory, or there's a lot of things that could play into that match. I hope they just do a straightforward good match and they save the angles for TV afterwards.
Good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so Damian Priest was a big part of tonight's episode of SmackDown. He is the big acquisition for SmackDown. He got promo time. He said on Raw, I wanted to make a name for myself. I did. And he really was, it felt like he was self-aware of who he's been. And I like that. I like when you switch brands, that you sell it as it's almost a fresh start. Like, okay, I got a fresh atmosphere, new opponents, different night of the week. I mean, it can be overplayed sometimes, but he sold the idea that this is a reason to look at me in a new way. He's so associated with the Judgment Day. And now, suddenly, he's teaming with LA Knight. He's battling with Jacob Fatu. I think it was, it's not necessarily a big part of the Rumble. It might be a piece of the Royal Rumble itself. What did you think of Damian Priest tonight?
I thought he was great. I like that segment that he had with Jacob Fatu. I think that's a definite match we'll get at some point this year going into WrestleMania season. And I like the switch up because that feud with Judgment Day and Finn Balor was going on forever. And although it had a great blow off in that final match a few weeks ago, I feel like it was good for him to get away from that and also get into a different environment with new, fresh opponents, new, fresh atmosphere. So as far as him being on SmackDown these first 2 weeks, I like it. I think it's been a good idea, and I think it'll definitely go on to build. Let me rephrase that. I feel like it'll definitely go on to build more momentum for him in the next few months, and I think he'll definitely find some success there. I don't know if necessarily he'll win the championship again anytime soon, although they teased that with Cody last week, but I think he is a major upper mid-card talent going forward. I kind of see him, honestly, at the same level as I would have seen Kane during the Attitude Era. That's the way I would compare Damian Priest.
That's a good comparison. Damian Priest officially added to the Rumble tonight. Any chance that he should be talked about as a possible winner?
No, I'm sorry. I love him. He's great. I think he'll have a good showing, but he's not winning that Royal Rumble.
Yep, I agree. But if you're gonna keep him a big star, you want him. I mean, he had overachieved in 2024. A lot of wrestlers did actually. You want him to act like he's a contender, not concede that he's not. He is a former world champion and has a presence to him. Andrade and Miz, it was just a little thing they did, but I thought it worked. Miz, I mean, it's a bit where, the heel talks bad about someone and then the babyface is standing behind him. They played it in sort of a self-aware trope way rather than acting like we're being clever and you've never seen this before. And at that level of, Miz, I mean, at that level of where this falls on the card and on the depth chart of important things, I thought it was fine, and Nick Aldis played his part well. And then, Andrade got a win. I mean, I think that's a right way to use Miz these days. Any thoughts on that, Kurt?
Yeah, it was fine for what it was. I wasn't expecting any other outcome besides the Miz losing, because Andrade, he doesn't have momentum right now per se, but I feel like he's higher on the totem pole right now than Miz is. Mm-hmm. So I figured it was going to go in that direction. And now with Zelina Vega on SmackDown, maybe they could get back together and she could manage him again.
How about Carmelo and Jimmy Uso and what they did there? Carmelo tries to use the middle rope for a leverage pin. Jimmy rolls through, pulls on the tights to win. So Jimmy cheated to win. So it protected Carmelo a little, but it was fighting fire with fire. It's Jimmy going, "You're going to cheat? Oh, I'm going to cheat." I'm not going to be too pure not to cheat if you're willing to cheat. And he got the win. So yeah, tell me what you think about that match on SmackDown tonight. Did it feel like time filler, no big deal, or more than that?
Oh, no, I thought the match was good. I thought it was actually one of the better matches on the show. I think both of them worked well together. Carmelo Hayes is great, but the only problem I have is that he always loses. And they just always make him seem out to be a joke, from like his constant complaining, his constant going into Nick Aldis's office to complain about an opportunity, complain about getting a title shot or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Combine that with the fact that he always loses pretty much all of his matches, it kind of concerns me as a fan of his. But regardless, it was still a good match, still good wrestling, and I will never complain about getting good wrestling.
I think there's losses on TV that says we think nothing of this person and they'll be on the next cutbacks. I don't sense Carmelo's getting punished. I think they want Carmelo to be the cocky, slightly in over his head because he's so cocky, first-round draft pick who needs to be humbled a little bit, but boy, he still comes back fighting and holds his own against some top people. He got a protected loss tonight because Jimmy did cheat. That could be a sign for people who are looking for him to, be protected a little bit. This isn't like just there's so many examples over the years where wrestlers were put on TV and they just were sort of colorful jobbers. And I think this is part of a larger arc with Carmelo. I really do. I understand, trepidation about this path, but he's played this part really well. And he's having, as you say, good matches. And I think he's, because of the TV time he's getting, which I think a lot of people in WWE are jealous of, if they're not just focused on wins and losses, they're like, he's getting all this TV time. He's becoming a household name, like amongst viewers. I think they can just pivot and turn this into Carmelo at some point having a moment of change, and it could be a heel NXT call up where he has a history with him or whatever, and then he suddenly just gets on a winning streak because I don't want to say he's humbled, but he changes his attitude in a way where he doesn't, whatever the story is they tell, he doesn't take wins for granted, and he kind of changes his approach to them. I think they can turn this into something, and he can be a mainstay.
He could be, and granted, he does get a lot of good TV time. But as far as like how you call him like a colorful jobber, the one person he kind of reminds me of right now is Chad Gable. Chad Gable also being somebody who's very good, who should probably get a singles title run. Yeah. He just loses so often, it's kind of hard to really take him seriously in that sense.
Gable, they tried to have him be a little more serious, and it just stripped away anything interesting about him, I think. And so they're like, mid-card heel, great for good matches and backstage segments, but you're mid-card, because they tried to move him, because Kurt Angle, the criticism of Angle, and I was among them, is, yes, he's good at comedy, but he's doing too much of it, and it's defining him down. I think with Gable, it's hard. I don't think he has that realistic edge to him. I think Carmelo has that in him. I think Carmelo, if they choose to have him be more serious, I think he'd be more successful than Gable was.
Anything's possible. The only time will tell. But also another person, Carmelo Hayes kind of reminds me of, although he's more athletic, The Miz. He kind of reminds me of The Miz a little bit too, from a personality standpoint.
Brock Benningfield says Trick showed a little aggressive behavior that was unlike him on Tuesday. Made me think he could be at the Rumble and side with Carmelo. Kavanti Small says Carmelo, because of his size, works well with a heel, as a heel with a heavy. So, yeah, Trick Williams coming in, aligning with Carmelo, or being the heel who helps turn Carmelo babyface, or both, just in that order, could happen, Kurt.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to see that happen tomorrow. But like you said before, he still gets TV time. If he still gets consistent TV time and a storyline like this, he'll be fine. I don't see him getting fired.
No. On the Gable front, Goodfella says, agreed that peak Gable will be a babyface. And yeah, and that might be something, you know, I think he's earning fans' respect by being entertaining and really good in the ring. Back to Carmelo, Glenn B says, if they ever mention Melo being on a losing run, thanks, Vince, then he will be in trouble. He will have a good run in the Rumble, in my opinion. And Cavanti says, do you think Carmelo should develop a lie, cheat, steal type gimmick where he finds a sneaky way to pick up wins? He can develop a string of artificial wins. I think he's already trying to cheat to win. He's just not very good at cheating, Kurt.
Yeah, pretty much. But I wouldn't mind seeing that kind of storyline, like a modern day Eddie Guerrero type vibe.
Yep. Glenn B says Gable will be mega over when he eventually saves Otis and the Alpha Academy from something. The history. And you don't think so, Kurt?
Not anytime soon.
Yeah. Omos likely to be in the Rumble. He'll get a moment.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I saw that he said he was coming back, so that'd be cool to see him. But I think one person we will not be seeing in the Rumble is Brock Lesnar, if you heard the most recent news.
Yeah. I mean, the lawsuit being back in headlines, you know, I don't think they were going to do it anyway, even though we had a reference to the Beast. Chelsea Green, Meechin, U.S. title match. Any thoughts on more thoughts on Chelsea Green's performance? I really enjoy her, and I sense you. Well, go ahead.
No, I enjoy her. Don't get me wrong, but the match itself, it kind of was what it was. It ended on a disqualification, so obviously this feud's going to continue. But I do like Chelsea Green's character work. I think she definitely nails it on the head with her performances. I like her in this role as like the new, I guess the female face of America, and kind of Piper Niven's like her Secret Service agent. I like that whole aspect of it. And yeah, it's obvious that this feud's going to continue. I'm not sure if it's going to go all the way to WrestleMania, but it's obvious from this that we're going to be seeing a lot more of these two, and also obviously B-Fab and Piper Niven in ringside. And who knows, possibly maybe Matt Cardona will be in the Rumble tomorrow too.
The Triple H Hall of Fame announcement. They showed the clip at the headquarters.
Oh, yeah.
Your thoughts on that, Kurt? The whole, Shawn Michaels and then Undertaker and then Stephanie coming out and Triple H acting all surprised. What'd you think of that?
It was great. Obviously, there's nobody more deserving of being in the Hall of Fame than Triple H, from the fact that he's been in the company for 30 years, from being the Hunter Hearst Helmsley character, then, being a part of DX, then leading DX, and then becoming the Game and becoming a multiple-time champion, then heading Evolution and like launching the careers of Randy Orton and Batista. Then he ran NXT and made NXT such a big deal for all those years. And in many ways, it was better than the main roster for a while. And now being the head of creative and the COO, yeah, it's going to be great to see him like get his flowers and like get that recognition on a Hall of Fame stage. And hopefully also Batista goes into this year with him.
Oh, cool. Yep. All right, Kurt, anything else you want to add before we sign off? We got a big day tomorrow.
No, I think it pretty much wraps it up. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I think I'm going to watch some old Royal Rumbles before we get to tomorrow, if I can find some time. And yeah, this is one of my favorite times of the year, WrestleMania season. Yeah, it's definitely a great time to be alive. Even though they're charging so much damn money for the tickets, I'm still looking forward to WrestleMania. Yes, they are. You and Kelly Wells binging Royal Rumbles. It's Kelly Wells from PWTorch NXT. His favorite match, and he binges them and loves that match too. Skip 1993 though. Yes. All right, thanks everybody. So tomorrow night, Brandon LeClaire and Greg Parks will be hosting Wrestling Night in America live after the Royal Rumble. So please join them, and it'll be right here on the YouTube channel. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we'll have a link to that in my report on the Royal Rumble at PWTorch.com. Hope you all will read along with my report, get off social media, or create at least a tab on your browser and check out what I'm saying about the show. If for any reason
tragically you're not able to watch it live, I will keep you up to date on what's happening if you aren't trying to avoid spoilers. Or when the show is done, check out my report Saturday or Sunday and see what I had to say about it. But you can go VIP, pwtorch.com/govip, and hear what I have to say about the Rumble in depth with Todd Martin and Rich Fan on Saturday night after the Rumble. That is not live. It is not for everyone. It is just for our VIP members. We have been doing post pay-per-view and PLE roundtables for over 20 years. And when you're a VIP member getting a full VIP membership, you get to binge any post pay-per-view roundtables you want, going back to 2003, 2004 and on. So over 20 years of post pay-per-view roundtables. Absolutely, we would love for you to be a VIP member and show support for us and get a lot in return for that support. Again, the VIP roundtable, Todd, Rich, and I will be covering it tomorrow night, but live after the Rumble, right here on the PWTorch YouTube channel and on the PWTorch Dailycast podcast feed. Greg Parks returning with Brandon LeClaire to review the Royal Rumble. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Everyone in the chat. Great hearing from Jason D from Australia. Thanks to Kurt Cadet, my co-host. Always great hearing from Kurt. He'll be back soon, I hope, in the co-host chair. And we will talk to everybody tomorrow night after the show.